Welcome to the Social Value Portal webinar. My name is Daniel Hart. I'm one of the category managers here at Star Procurement in Professional Services. I'm also joined by Michael Housel as well, who will be helping to go through the Social Value Portal. Just to make everyone aware why we're doing the Social Value Portal. So, I mean, a few years ago, we started really going heavy on the Social Value Policy. But what we found is that in contracts, it was very difficult to measure what social value has been delivered, and we needed to find a way of measuring it. I think in recent years, a lot of bidders have managed to, get contracts and, award contracts to say they're going to deliver a lot of valuable things to the community, but then there's no way of us knowing if it's being delivered or not. So the Social Value Portal basically gives us the opportunity to just see what's been delivered in the area, which is all good for all of our 4-star councils, which are Stockport, Trafford, Rochdale and Tameside. So this demonstration will show you how to use the Social Value Portal. Obviously, it's going to be very high level. It's not going to be very specific to a contract. We just want to give you a bit of a quick walkthrough. And obviously, if you've got any questions at all about the Social Value Portal, then feel free to either email us, or if you're currently bidding for a tender for a contract, then just make sure you send a message to us via the chat. So just before we begin, before you even go to the Social Value Portal, when you go to your tender documentation, you'll see a link, and in that link you'll see that it will give you a link for the project itself, and then you can register. So this is the first page that you see, the page that we're showing you now, which is a request to access to a tender contract on the Social Value Portal. You fill that in yourself with all your organisation details, the sector you're in, invoicing details, and then at the end you accept the terms and conditions and you request access to the project. So this will be in the ITT document or the response document, or we might send it yourselves, just depending what procurement it is. There is also a user guidance as well in our procurement documentation, so make sure you give that a go before you even start using the portal. Once you've got a login, you'll end up going to a page that looks like this. So you'll see that there's the title of the contract at the top. So for this one, we've called it Big Demo, Star Demo Supply. Obviously, it will be the title of the contract for any other procurement. This is the kind of page that you'll be seeing. Very standard page. And at the top, you've got number 1, which is Social Value Tender Responses, where you can enter your metrics. These are the metrics that you're going to commit to as part of the contract for your social value. And then you've got number 2, which is the value of the contract with the bid and the fee. Obviously, this is where you put in how much the contract is worth. Don't worry, this is not where we evaluate the contract. This is just so it can compare it to your metrics to give us a monetary value of how much social value is going to be delivered. And then obviously when you've finished doing all this, you then confirm your submission and you click submit. Now, before you do any of these 3, just to make you aware that at the bottom of the page, you've got to also submit your social value method statement. So make sure you attach it in here. Moving forward, we may ask bidders to put their social value method statement within the tender response document. But for now, we prefer that you do it online. And it's very important as well that you make sure that your social value method statement links to the metrics that you've submitted, because it does have a weighting against your statement as well as the metrics, because the Social Value Portal is basically quantitative and qualitative. So just it's best to bear that in mind. So if we just start with the entering your social value targets, if you just click on enter social value targets, and it will take you to a page. You're allowed to have 2 hours of inactivity before it logs you out, so just bear that in mind. And just to give you a quick overview, you've got the question, you've got the units, you've got the target which you fill in, and then you've also got the opportunity to add attachments to kind of demonstrate how you're going to do this. Now, obviously, Star Procurement evaluate these metrics to see if they're realistic or not. There might be some clarifications when we look at this, when we review it. So just bear in mind that when you put in numbers here, that they've got to at least look reasonable and realistic. Obviously, if you're doing like a £100,000 contract and the social value equals £1 million, then we can see that the numbers don't seem to add up. So if we just go, obviously I'm not going to go through every single question, but if we just give you a high level view of the types of things that we're looking for, you don't have to also fill in every single one. You've got to base this on your own company and what you can deliver, what you feel that you can deliver as part of this contract or the contract that you're bidding for. So the first section is jobs. So just as an example, how many local people can be employed on this contract based on this contract, or a number of percentage of local people employed on the contract already. And again, it tells you the unit that you need to adhere to in order to adhere to this metric. And then also you've got, on the second part of the jobs, you've got opportunities for disadvantaged people as well. So just as an example, you might want to put a metric on rehabilitating new offenders. It's obviously better if young offenders are more likely to not go back into prison if they've got a job. That's something that's been proven, and that's a metric that's part of the Social Value Portal. Michael Halsall's also got more of a better example for that.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the questions we're getting when it's sort of, for example, NT1, local person employed on the contract. So you have to take into consideration what we've described as being local. So it might be GM if it's a larger contract, or if it's just one of the Star Authority specific, it might be, just Stockport. So if you're going to take someone on, it has to be related to if you were being successful on this contract. And you also need to take into consideration, so when you're putting in your target, it has to be someone that if you put in one, it has to be that new person is going to work 100% time on this contract. Now you can also use existing staff. So if you are going to be allocating staff within your organisation on this contract, if they're only going to work half of the time on that contract, then you can put in 0.5 as the proxy value, and then that will automatically times by the proxy values that have been entered already, and then that will give you your values.
So just on that, so when you put numbers in here, it will give you a proxy value. So that's the value that we're trying to see here, which is when you put in a number there, we get a sterling value, whereas in the past we didn't have that. We just had a method statement saying what you're going to deliver, and there was no metrics. A good thing as well about the Social Value Portal is that once you've submitted and you've hopefully won the contract, you have to then submit quarterly reports. So every quarter we'll see how much you're delivering the social value that you said you was going to commit as part of the contract. And because there's quite a large weighting per bid now for any Star Authority over £50,000 contract value, we will be looking at these reports every quarter to see if you've actually said what you're going to commit. Now, just to keep on going down, there's a lot of metrics here. You've got improved skills for local people. If you want to deliver talks into schools and you want to attach number of staff hours, training opportunities with a number of weeks. If you keep going down as well, if you are very, very invested into improving supply chains or SMEs, then there's an opportunity for you to put hours in there as well, or a monetary value. For example, if you want to put in the total amount spent with voluntary sector organisations, then you can do so as well. And if that's because of this contract, then you can probably put a high value in there. And there's loads of other metrics as well. So if we just keep going down, a good one that a lot of suppliers tend to focus on are climate change. So obviously climate change is quite a big one at the moment. So if you're doing a contract that involves going to the council buildings a lot, you might want to focus on how you're saving miles. So rather than getting there by car, you might have a cycle to work scheme, or you might use public transport or carpooling programs, or you might have electric car vehicle. So again, you're not using emissions. And then if you just go even lower down, we've got innovation as well. So innovation is one where you can create your own social value metric. And obviously this is quite a difficult one, but if you feel like there's a metric here that we haven't considered, because obviously this is a national metric system. So if you feel like there's one that we haven't considered as part of this portal, then feel free to add in your own metric, and then in the social value method statement, describe it so we know, we can measure if that's feasible or not as part of the contract.
Yeah, just to touch on the description box as well over to the right hand side. So once you've filled in your value, this description box isn't where we're expecting the method statement behind, that's a separate attachment. So the description box should just be used to put in some details around your working. So if you put 2 in as a value, we just want a brief description of how you've come to that, just to make sure we're both in agreement of it being deliverable, really.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, obviously there's a lot of metrics here that can demonstrate social value, and things there's different types of units as well. So always bear in mind that when you are submitting this, that you look at yourself as a company and what your company currently does. A lot of it's quite difficult sometimes as a supplier to understand what social value you add, but if you just look around your company and see what you do, once you've done the metrics, make sure you save and close. It will also calculate it as well. At the top here, there's a pound sign, which will, after you've done, will give you a monetary value to how much your social value is worth. And then once you've done that, always double check that you've added your social value method statement. Always make sure you check that. Once you've done everything and you've put in the value of the contract, confirm your submission. Just to clarify again, this value of the contract is your price. It's not the social value of the contract, it's whatever you're putting in your price submission. And just as a final one as well, at the bottom of the page, if you need to ask any questions to the social value portal company itself, then they've got a support team. If you click on that, it will send you to a support page. They've also usefully left some user guidances. One's on the National TOMS itself. TOMS means themes, outcomes and measures. There's an intro to measuring social value, and then there's also using the social value calculator.
Just to touch on the method statement that you're going to upload and attach. So as we've said, this is just going to reinforce the TOMS you submitted. So we've given A, B, C, D sort of like guide that you should follow. So we're expecting it in that format. And for all the TOMS that you think are deliverable, you should go through and then evidence and give us detail around how you intend to deliver it. Obviously this carries a weighting, so we'll detail how it's split in the tender documents. Currently we're leaning more towards 50-50 split on the weighting, so 50% for your TOMS and 50 for this method statement. So it's obviously an important part that you should evidence your TOMS and give us detail around how you intend to engage your continuous improvement, your delivery capability, and you can also, it helps us if you reference the TOMS, so each one has a different NT number. So if you can give the NT and then the description next to each, that would make it clear and easy for us to understand.
Yeah, so the NT number is obviously short for National TOMS number, and you can find the NT number. You can see the NT number just down the side here. So you've got National TOMS number 1, National TOMS number 2, and yeah, like I said, these metrics are not measured by Stardom ourselves. These have been created by the government as a social value initiative. Just as a final point, when you do submit, make sure that it says submitted there next to submission status. If it says registered, that will confirm that you haven't. We don't obviously want you to lose out on potentially winning a contract just because you've accidentally not pressed the button. So yeah, make sure you do that. And just as one more final point, if you're wanting to do this outside of the software before you go into the portal, you can download the National TOMS spreadsheet and use that as a guidance before you go onto the portal and submit them. You know, if you need more of a wider discussion with your team. Thank you for watching and listening to this webinar. I hope it's been really useful. And if you are bidding for a contract, obviously good luck. If you feel like you need any other webinars to do with bidding for any of the Star Councils for Stockport, Trafford, Rochdale and Tameside, then make sure you leave a comment below of what type of webinar you'd think would be ideal. And yeah, thanks very much. Goodbye.